Hello, my name is John O'Connell, and I'm delighted today to be talking with Giles Fraser, who, amongst many other things, is a partner in Scale Up Group, which obtains growth funding for tech entrepreneurs, as well as co-investing ourselves in them. So far, we've raised around £66 million, and we personally have invested around £4.5 million. Giles, a very warm welcome.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Delighted. You're a member of Scale Up Group, and I'm delighted that we have the benefit of your vast experience and knowledge and connections, which our clients are able to take advantage of as and when they feel the need. We've only got 15, 20 minutes, Charles, so I'm not going to spend too much longer on this intro, but suffice to say that your track record as co-founder of Brands2Life 25 years ago, and it's scaling up to stress the point, is very impressive indeed.
Thank you.
Unlike most of our scale up colleagues, you're not a tech person per se, but instead you've created what is now a leading global communications agency, one that works for over 100 tech businesses, both established and early stage. I'm sure I'm not the first tech person who's not in that world to say that this is whole area of communications I've had some difficulty in the past with, and therefore got something of an ambivalent attitude to it, given the difficulty of measuring its benefits. So, sorry to start off with this on a semi-negative, challenging tone, but your thoughts on this conundrum would also be of great interest, I'm sure. Giles, you sold Brands to Life in December 2023 to Parity and are still running it with your business partner, Sarah Scales, so I understand. So maybe, time permitting, your reflections on your journey so far, including the inevitable forks in the road when you had to make some key decisions. I'm sure the listeners will be very interested to see how you approached them and the decisions you made and what you learned from them. So, in other words, in the short time we've got, I'd like to distill what it is about yourself, which has driven you. Secondly, what lessons you learned. And thirdly, what you'd like to pass on to our audience. Simple. Eh?
Sounds good, John. That's quite a big, multifaceted question. Where would you like to start?
Well, I think the floor is yours now, Giles,
Okay.
and you take it as you wish. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think unlike many people who set up their own business, I'd worked for about, I don't know, 15 years. I'd had the opportunity to work in large agencies, small agencies, management consultancy, also on the corporate side for Logica. Sarah Scales and I got together at Hill and Knowlton and decided to set up a business actually during the dot-com boom. It's what we started planning at end of 99 with a view to starting in April. 2 weeks before we started the business, it was the dot-com crash, which caused our loved ones and friends to say, "Are you sure about this?" But we were pretty sure. We didn't really have a plan B. We set up in a small room in Battersea with actually no clients and no staff. We just put our savings in. We didn't pay ourselves and went for it. And we've managed over the years to, build a pretty significant business. I suppose, I mean, there's a whole load of things that one could pass on. For us, one of the big things was our proposition. We'd seen that on the West Coast, a lot of US PR firms had done a very good job advising companies on the strategy and their narrative, as well as the execution. Whereas in Europe, big generalization, most tech agencies had really just focused on the execution. And we're strong believers, and that's why we're called Brands to Life, that if you have a really differentiated, ideally unique proposition that talks about you're tackling the market in a different way, that you will win in your market. And that is absolutely crucial, both for us as an agency in terms of our proposition, but also for our clients in terms of getting, if you like, getting some cut through and accelerating your brand and therefore your business. So that was our big belief. And that the clue was in the name for us. And we have always stuck very close to that. So the proposition, we now talk about ourselves being the agency for the brands transforming our world, which is, I guess, quite a sort of big claim. But we, as I said, as you said, we work for over 100 tech firms, some established and some startups. And, our client list is second to none in terms of what we do. So we feel we have managed to make quite a lot of impact. I suppose there's a few things that I would list as being important. It's not exhaustive. Obviously, we're a services business, whereas many of the companies you talk to maybe are more product based.
Yep.
But I would certainly talk about the proposition. I think Sarah and I set up the business together. We still run it together. We're a great team. We're a good duo. And I think running a business with somebody else who shares the same values and outlook on life and bluntly sense of humor is absolutely crucial. And I think we both recognize we couldn't have done it without that. Associated with that is the values, and values I think is a much overused name. So we have 5 values, which are ambition, integrity, commitment, respect, and enjoyment. But those are living values. So we actually take the staff out every couple of years and ask them how we're doing against it and give them their ideas. And people who stick around and clients who stick around tend to buy into those values. And we use those values to decide what we will do and, crucially, what we won't do. So I would say values is important, and that drives the culture of the business. And certainly in a services business, the culture, being comfortable with the people you work with, having the right kind of relationships, having the right kind of, crucially, ambition is important. A couple of other things I'd throw in before you probably want to sort of dig in a bit. 2 other things I would sort of say, top of mind. One is, for us, innovation's important. We never have a year when we say, we did really well last year, let's do the same thing again. We always want to do something new. And during our time before we sold to parity, we always try to do something new every year. And that shouldn't be underestimated, because we built the business without overdraft debt or third-party investors. So it was really using, accumulated cash that we were doing that. But every year we would do something new and augment what we were about. And that sort of, I think, really helped to drive the business forward. It didn't always work, but it certainly created a sense of momentum, both for ourselves and for our clients. And the final thing I would say, and this is probably meat and drink to your teams and your listeners, is financial rigor. Very early on, we put in a lot of financial rigor, and you need to know what you can ask for from customers in terms of payment terms. And if you don't know, you don't ask. And so we were always able to get, particularly in the early stages, a lot of the money up front, which made a huge difference, particularly during the dot-com crash, when some of these clients were struggling. And it's that rigor on how we're run financially that's helped us to be able to grow. And I think other agents maybe haven't had that luxury. So anyway, that's a short speech, but probably a good starter.
Well, yes, plenty of meat there, Giles. Which as an entrepreneur myself, I can relate to, having gone through that dot-com era when
Yeah.
by this time we were a public company, which made it even worse, because
Yeah.
the blood on the wall, so to speak, of our share price was there for everyone to see, and trying literally to stop some of my colleagues
Well,
being
if you
suicidal.
remember, we worked with you for a bit, I think around
I do.
2004, maybe 2003, 2004.
Trying to keep the faith,
Yeah.
and keep your colleagues from going
Yeah.
suicidal, and your customers from thinking you're going broke.
Mm.
It's a bit of a challenge, especially when you're questioning your own sense of well-being.
I know.
Well, the culture, is clearly coming through in these podcasts,
Mm.
and it's one of these when you see it, you recognize it. If it's
Mm.
not there, it's hard to realize it's not there for a while.
Yeah.
How many people do you now employ, Giles?
Just under 200, mainly in London, and about 20 in the US.
Well, that's impressive. And what you've just said about getting cash paid in advance, especially in your early days when
Yeah.
your track
Yeah.
record was limited.
Yeah.
I mean, that must have taken some degree of salesmanship on your part to.
Well, I think Sarah and I both we're quite commercially oriented. And for many clients, certainly those clients, maybe sort of smaller clients, high growth clients, they might have wanted some sort of flexibility in terms of service, but they were prepared to be a bit more flexible about payment terms in return. because they reckon they wanted to, and many of them, and they really wanted to help a startup business. They were quite
Okay.
excited being part of it. So that was important. We got some brilliant early days. Some people came out of the woodwork who we'd known who gave us the most amazing support that we didn't expect to. So that network that you build up over your working career is so crucial in that when you have in those first few months.
Yeah, I guess that one word trust then comes in, doesn't it?
Absolutely right. Trust, and I
Yeah.
think just sort of wanting to be part of, wanting to help people that they like.
Well, one of the things that struck me always about services business, and of course, how a software products guy like me is now running a services business, scaled up groups
Mm.
for another day. But is that, of course, your product essentially your people, and avoiding them walking out the door and thinking they can do better and start up with relatively little cash compared to investing in a software product. I mean, that must be a perennial challenge for yourselves, staff retention, loyalty,
Yeah.
motivation.
So obviously the working environment's important, giving people the right mix of working from home and working in the office. I think making feel they're part of something bigger, and that it's an exciting journey is important. So, the narrative and constantly renewing the narrative and their role in it is important. One of the things we did quite early on was we introduced paid sabbaticals every 4 years. And that's quite good
Okay.
because it means that during that time that people have a sabbatical, the people who are working into them get more responsibility. And the people who are on
Mhm.
sabbatical, when they come back, hopefully we can give them a new-ish or new job, a new role. So it's the equivalent of maybe moving company. So we've always
Wow.
managed to renew and sort of reinvigorate everyone's careers. And that's why we've got a large number of people who've been with us for more than 10 years.
Wow. Well
Yeah.
done. And how long does that sabbatical last?
Well, I think at 4 years you get 2 months at half pay, and then at 8 and 12 it's a month at full pay.
Oh,
Yeah.
top marks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it means if you've gone straight from you straight from school to work or straight from university to work or whatever, you can do that trip, before you get to your next life stage, for example.
Do you get a sabbatical?
Well, I don't think I have had one. I had one years and years ago for
Yeah,
about
there we
a few
go.
weeks. But
There we
to be
go.
honest, when you run a business, you're never really totally switched off.
No,
There's
no.
always
Well,
something.
it's yeah. It
Yeah.
all right. So I'm not going to plead my justification for a personal sabbatical yet. Then,
No, but I think you probably, John. I think all your work at Scale Up Group, you deserve one. So.
well, that's very kind of you. Checks in the post.
Ah,
um, right at the beginning of this, I mentioned measurement of
yeah,
benefits.
yeah,
I know it's one of these knotty things with there's no one answer, I imagine. But
yeah,
what's your approach when a client says, "I'm going to pay you a lot of money.
yeah,
I'm trusting in you, Giles, which is why we're doing business,
yeah,
but my board
yeah.
wants to see some outcomes.
Yeah.
Can you
So,
oblige?"
so I guess it really depends on the type of business, whether it's a business that is solely online or whether it's a business that is, online and offline or,
Yeah,
and then it's about each individual client has a different requirement really for measurement. Quite a lot are about, just share of voice at a brand level through, the media, through earned, through social, whatever it might be. It could be about key message penetration. So like at the moment, a lot of clients want to be seen to be leaders in AI. Yeah. They want the media
yeah,
to be saying they're a leader. So then we're obviously tracking how they're doing against their competitors. The other
yes,
thing to consider is that increasingly, with the rise of influencers and obviously things like social and SEO, it is possible to do campaigns that, if you like, work through the full funnel. So, the whole ADA, awareness, interest, desire, action. So you might have a campaign at a brand level that talks about, repositions the company, but also creates content and events and opportunities that gets people in front of them, that gets them clicking on content and so on and so forth. And hopefully even actually, creating MQLs and then SQLs. And for many B2B companies, that's what they're looking for. So they might say, our big thing is we need to drive people to our big show, or we're running a series of webinars about our new product. We need people to be signing up for that. So you can never do without the brand air cover, which is the bit people struggle with. But often you can translate that through to different metrics as you go along the customer journey, right? What you
That's
do
the
know,
whole.
what you do know is that if you stop doing brand work, you've usually got maybe 6 to 12 months of air cover with that sort of, if you like, the fuel that you've created. But then very quickly, your sales teams come and say, "We're not in the conversation. There are other people in the conversation. We're not getting
Yes.
asked in the room anymore." And that's the moment when you know that that spend that you were putting into the high-level brand awareness work has run out, and you've got to start thinking again.
When I was a sort of hard-nosed CEO of a public company, and as always, you're watching how you're spending, and we're spending a lot on marketing in a general sense. I thought the moment I could really rationalize it to my hard-bitten non-execs, especially, was when a salesperson came in and the prospect for a very large organization said, "We know you guys are number one in the
Mm,
world. So I'm, frankly, to make my job easier, I'm just looking for any reasons why I shouldn't choose you."
mm.
And I thought, wow,
Yeah. Well, there you are.
the brand is now working, and that I thought, well, that shows we don't, it's ours to. Your point's well made. Of course, it's ours to lose if we don't, nurture it and
And
make sure
most,
it's.
I think, there are certain established tasks where you know who you need to go to. Big organizations, government departments, they know the suppliers they need to go to. But for a lot of enterprises, the
Yeah.
problems the board has that relate to tech are white space problems, right? They don't really know what the brief is. And if you
Yes.
want to get invited to pitch your ideas and then hopefully pitch your proposition, then you've got to be in the media, you've got to be talked about by influencers, you've got to be on social, and you've got to have a buzz, right? Because
Yes.
you get bored of your messaging way before your customers and prospects even know that, right? You've just got to keep
Yes.
finding ways to reheat and put out on social and media your story, because the morning that your prospect is thinking, "Gosh, I've got to get some more suppliers in. I'm not happy with my existing one." That's the day when you need to be top of the his or her LinkedIn feed.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. I mean,
Yeah,
as you know, we deal with a lot of early stage tech businesses, and they're so comfortable launching into the brilliance of their technology,
yeah,
but but haven't made it clear to anyone what the issues they're trying to solve,
absolutely
and
right.
also
The
how they
why.
different
Yeah,
and how they
yeah,
differentiate.
yeah.
And you've kind of lost your audience. We're not interested in the ins and out if you can't tell me what problem you're solving in the
And
first
I think
place.
that's absolutely right. And related to that is something that I probably should have said at the beginning, is with my personal mantra is, this is a huge generalization, but European tech businesses, at least sort of early stage, aren't as bold as they should be about what they're trying to do. Bit more work in terms of their proposition and how they might be changing the way the category works, and being confident enough to tell that story. I think people are often in a position where they think, "Oh, well, our product will speak for ourselves," or this or that. Well, you also need to tell the story and get people excited. And if you do that, then people are going to say, "Oh, I may or may not agree, and I may or not be convinced, but I'd quite like that person to give the argument to me in person." And that's the sales opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which of course doesn't typically come as natural to those this side of the Atlantic as it does to the other side, doesn't it?
Precisely. So that's one of
Yeah.
the things we try and help our clients with. That narrative bit is so important, and the people don't often spend enough time thinking about that bit.
Yeah, excellent. You touched a little bit on AI, which of
Yeah,
course no conversation like this is will be complete without it.
yeah.
I mean, how is it changing your business and any thoughts you have on for the listeners?
Yeah, I think, well, it's starting to change quite quickly. Certainly, a lot of we give all our teams like sort of Chat GPT plus, I think it's called plus obviously Copilot. So we are really encouraging people bottom up to use it, whether it's for writing or for administrative work. We use it a lot in things like film, whatever it might be, to try and accelerate what we're doing. In parallel with that, we have a sort of what I might loosely call a top-down strategy, which is about, we have a thing called the AI Hub, which is a sort of innovation space. So we're doing a lot of work educating our teams, getting our clients, having the opportunities to get involved in things. I think there is so much going on. A lot of people just struggle to keep up, and they always think they are behind everyone else. There's a bit of FOMO,
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
us, it's about trying things. It's about doing consultancy. It's about starting to build tools that we can use with our clients. We've already got some. But I would say the big thing on this is it's mainly about encouraging, giving individuals, staffs the tools to be able to try things and get used to it. And I think the clients on the whole, there are some exceptions. They like to know we're using the tools. They obviously, in some cases, are saying, well, can I use them? Can we not do this? In which case, we have to establish our value in terms of where we're providing value. I think we're managing to do that pretty well. So it's all about, if you like, sort of using it in the right kind of way. But I do think, I don't know what your perception is. I heard a very interesting story about a US VC that was about to put 30 million into an AI company the other day. And while they were in the process, the VC thought, one of the VC analysts said, I wonder if I can build their product. And he built their product in a week. So
Wow.
that deal fell apart. So I really think we're all in the same boat with AI, and it's really about the one thing. I suppose one other thing I'd say is that a lot of it's about speed to market for us and for our clients. So using
Yes.
the tools, you can suddenly, rather than have to wait, whatever it is, 3 months to get a story, a campaign to market, you can reduce that time by 2/3, and that's
Yes.
spectacular. Because there is an opportunity. I don't know. Google does something big, or OpenAI does something big, and there's a window. Well, you can react much faster to that window using those tools, and then you can obviously work on it to make sure it's right. But it gives you the core that you need, the core
Yeah.
information, the core plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I think speed is a key thing, and also if our client in this case, is actually addressing a serious issue which a client has got and needs to fix it now, then you can cut through an awful lot of the fog which is
Yeah.
around AI.
The other
What's the
interesting thing
reality of
about
it?
AI at the
Yeah.
moment, well, there's loads of interesting things, is this whole geo thing. Yeah. So,
Hmm.
the idea that there's sort of generative engine optimization, but the idea that, people aren't clicking through on Google or anything anymore. And
Yes.
therefore, you've got to make sure that your earned media, your classic editorial or your Substack or your Reddit or your socials or your website is feeding the right information, because that paragraph where someone says, tell me who the leaders are in X tech category, you've got to be
Yeah.
in that, because they're not going to click through the link, that you've got to be there. So the game is
So,
changing a bit in terms of
yes.
how you actually drive the online inquiries.
Yeah. So people's attention span's getting even shorter.
Absolutely right. So, if you're not down the top in that paragraph of who are the top 5 leaders in your space, you need to get onto your PR and your social and all that sort of owned media to make sure you've got the right messages and content, keywords, so that you can get onto it fairly quickly.
Giles, fantastic
Right?
stuff here, which needs more time to do it real justice. But I think we've given our audience enough to
We've
think
delighted them
about,
enough.
and maybe there ought to be a part two in due course. And any closing thoughts?
Um, Closing thoughts. I suppose what I would say is I do think that for any kind of business, the values are really important, and actually living the values and making your strategic decisions in line with those values. I think if you do that, I think you're well on your way to having a successful business.
Well, what a way to end this podcast. And it's no doubt at all that you, Giles Fraser, uh, co-founder of Brands2Life, have had such a successful business, and long may it continue. Thank you
Thank you,
once
John.
again,
Pleasure.
Giles, for today. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks for your time. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.